Okay. So welcome, everybody. I am so glad that you joined me from different parts of the world, from Oregon, from Northern California, from Connecticut, from Vancouver, from Scotland. And these are just the people who are on my screen. So I know that there are other people who will be listening who weren't able to make this time. It's really tricky to find a time that will be where people will be available. But it gets recorded, and so people can watch after the fact. A few things I wanted to say, which before we get into the topic of listening, and I'm so thrilled that Alan Flood, is available. I mean, he knew Sid from 10 years, I think almost 10 years before I met Sid. So he knew Sid really shortly after Sid's experience. I came in around 1985. And it's just amazing that somehow this project landed in my doorstep. I knew that I wanted to find a way to, I hate to use the word convince, but you know, I'll say it rather humbly that I wanted to find a way to convince my clients to listen to Sid, to read Sid. And I was successful with some, but just a percentage, not everyone. And I could see a difference that my clients who went back to the source of the three principles, went back to Sid Banks' uncovering of this spiritual nature behind our physical life. So one thing led to another, and Mystery School was born. And so I feel really blessed to, to be in this position to offer it to people. And it's a lot more work than I realized. I'm not the most organized person, so I asked for pre and post tests and spaced 6 weeks apart after listening to Sid for half an hour or reading Sid for half an hour every day, as close as possible. Some days you'll get caught up and spend 3 hours. I mean, I know that happens to me. I have to set an alarm sometimes to stop listening or to stop reading because I have other things I have to do. So it's also, I mean, such a pleasure to start off with listening because two of the things that I remember Sid saying over and over was, first of all, don't listen to my words. Like when I heard that in 1985, don't listen to my words. What does that mean? I mean, come on. What am I going to listen to? The traffic in the background, my heart beating. And so I came to see all these years later at a deeper level what he meant about that. And I'm going to address that. But the other thing I want to talk about is something else that Sid said over and over. He would say, don't listen to my words. And he would say, listen for a beautiful feeling or look for a beautiful feeling. I also heard listen for a beautiful feeling. I could be making that one up. And I didn't know what did that mean. That was the most crazy thing. So when I first stumbled upon this, I was at the Advanced Human Studies Institute before I ever heard Sid Banks speak. I think I might have read the second chance, but it didn't land on me. It didn't impact me back then. Whew. It sure has through the years, though. Really, really has. So when I first heard Sid speak about not listening to my words, I didn't see what he was talking about. And through the years, I've seen that it requires a really quiet mind. That's, you know, the way I'd like us all to show up when we come on these webinars is to quiet our mind first, get stuff off of our mind. Just the thought, you know, is like that one thought, just that one thought of time to clear my mind does something. That one thought helps me to clear my mind. And so the other thing, and also as I'm talking about this, some of you know that I'm not really good with brevity. See, Richard's laughing. So you can please, you know, raise your hand. I'll see your hand visually. I'm not going to be looking at the chat raised. Just raise your hand if you have a question or you want to say something. But I just, you know, because sometimes I can get carried away. So the other thing about listening that really, really hits home for me is it's not just about listening to Sid or to his audios or videos or that of his students or me, you know, or any one of us on this screen. It's about listening to you. And the only way to do that is getting your brain really super quiet. And that's, I think, what Sid meant when he said, don't listen to my words. Listen to the insights. Listen for what you see, what gets uncovered for you. You know, Sid made a really big deal about not following him, not, that it's following your deepest self, the place in you that knows, the place in you that already knows. You know, when you do listen to Sid, I think everybody on this call has done some listening to Sid, if not in, you know, years of going to his lectures, which Alan and Richard and myself, we went to 3-day lectures of Sid's for years. It's not about that. Even if you listen for the first half hour, you could hear more than we heard back then. That's what Sid meant when he said, it doesn't take years to find wisdom. That was something that Sid often said that didn't really land on me, I'd say, until pretty recently. And that's the beauty of this understanding, is you just go deeper into a quiet place of knowing, that place that I can only describe as a spiritual knowing, because it's beyond the mind. I mean, it's beyond time, place, space, and matter, as Richard has often said. And Sid said, it's beyond what we think we know. There is so much we are conditioned to think about, the way we think about things, from mental illness to life itself, to, I mean, there's just so many ways we've been conditioned that we're blind to. It's in our blind spots because of the very nature of being conditioned to see things a certain way. So what Sid saw is that it goes so much further than that. It goes so much further than who we are as personalities, who we think we are, who we think other people are. And that's how you want to connect with people, at that deeper level where your brain is quiet as possible. I mean, it's never totally quiet, let's face it. There's always some thinking going on, but there's different degrees of following our thoughts. When thoughts are going on, it's in the background, unless we focus on those thoughts. It's just background noise, really. It's how I experience it. It's like a little static in the background. But the true nature of who we are and how we connect with one another is through listening at a deep level. And I know Alan's going to talk more about this. I just want to, I just want to say a little something about here I am. I've been listening for a living. It's how I live, how I put food on my table, it's how I, have a roof over my head since 1985. And I want to tell you, and I spent, and this is going to sound crazy too, I spent five or six, we'll say five long-term trainings that I did. I facilitated with Jack Pransky. I know lots of you on the call know Jack. And what a blessing that was. Oh my gosh. That was sometime in the 90s. We were working with people in social services. Their job was to listen. They were educators. They were some police. There was a principal of a school, a lot of people who were social workers, teachers, and people in charge of parenting centers. Do you think these people needed to listen as deeply as possible? Well, what we discovered was we were spending those 6 weekends, we're talking Friday evening through Sunday afternoon, 6 times 5 different trainings on listening. We would have people break up, pair up, and just listen to each other. And the things that came out of people's deep listening, and it's easier when strangers do this, by the way. So we'd start with, pick somebody in the room you don't know. And they'd come back and they felt like they just fell in love with that person who was a stranger 10 minutes ago. Because there's like this deep feeling of love when somebody really, you feel like somebody hears you, and they're not hearing you through their conditioned thinking that they're not even aware of. It's like a filter. People listen through this filter. This is typical of how people listen. They listen through this filter of their own thoughts. So people listen to judge right or wrong, that what you're saying is accurate or not, according to the way you think about it. Or you're listening for when the person's going to stop talking so you can interject your idea. Or we're listening to disagree. Or we're listening to teach. Or we're listening to show them the way they ought to be thinking, right? And this is kind of funny, but I was in a conversation with somebody. It was nobody on this screen, so don't feel bad about it. Don't feel insecure about this. And I was talking about doing this webinar, actually. And I was so into this story I was telling. And he interrupted me. And that's nobody on this screen. This is kind of a new friend in my life. Isn't that funny? And I just had a chuckle because it's so prevalent. It's what people listen. And I've heard this from my couples. I think this is really important to share with you. I've heard often that people think listening is about communicating. They think it's a discussion. So as I'm describing it, they'll say, well, yeah, he talks and then I talk, and then he talks and then I talk. And isn't that interesting? When you think about it, if you really want to connect, don't think about it like that. It's not a tennis game. You're not hitting a ball back and forth. You want to listen for their experience, what they're going through. It doesn't matter if you agree. It doesn't matter if you've had that experience. It doesn't matter if you have no idea what that person is talking about because your experience is so different. I mean, that's how I first heard Sid. I had no idea what he was talking about. I mean, my experience was 180 degrees different. I had no idea what having a spiritual awakening could possibly mean. And I'll tell you, I was reading a lot of books about spiritual awakenings back in the 70s. That was the popular thing to be doing. And I understood what I read in those books 100 times more when I learned from Sid. That's been my experience. I don't know if that's true for other people. But so, not only I'm still learning myself. That's the other point I wanted to make, that I am still learning about listening. It never ends. There is such a depth of understanding in my world. Look at how many years from 1985 that I still know that I have so much more to learn about this, and I welcome it. I used to look back and say, wow, I was really a dunce. But that doesn't help. That's not going to help me understand more. I also love this phrase, psychological innocence. I hide behind that phrase a lot because I was psychologically innocent back then. I didn't know what I didn't know. I listened the best I could, no matter how inadequate I was. So that's, I'm just so pleased that you're all on this journey here with me, with all of us. We're creating this as we go. The group wound up with this wonderful idea for a fantastic project, and I welcome people with especially different accents to read a chapter and record it of The Missing Link. And it'll be the book project, the Missing Link book project. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Different voices and different ages and different backgrounds. And yeah, so that came out of this group. And so I really, really appreciate all of it. So that's all for now. Oh my gosh, not one of you raised your hand. What's up with that? I mean, do you have anything you want to say before I pass it over to Alan? Boy, time flies. We started late, so I hope you can all stick around past the hour. Yeah. Oh, quiet. Isn't it golden? There's something so golden about quiet. All right, I'm muting myself. Take it away, Alan. Oh, I just wanted to say one thing about Alan. Alan, I don't even remember how I met you, but I know I met you, I think probably at one of the conferences a long time ago. And I think
Long Beach, I think. The Long Beach conference, I think.
Oh, I've got to put on my headset. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to mute myself when I put myself on my headset so I can hear.
Well, thank you. I also know that everybody here knows what listening is. So I'm going to try to speak about it in a way that's connecting for us. And if you have any thoughts about this, while I'm doing this, let me know. They take the memories of their past and their drive to succeed on steroids. And we talk usually for over 2 hours a session. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because he gets lost in their thinking and their reaction to life very quickly. And the reason this is important to listening is because when I listen to them, I feel their resilience and their strength in the face of this lifelong struggle, and their intelligence and hope and ability to deal with the suffering or the pain of fibromyalgia. That's what I hear. And what happens in these conversations is they lighten up, they become resilient, they may have an insight or two. I don't try to fix them. I don't try to fix them. I let them heal. And that way of listening is something I learned. I learned it back in 1978 when I first heard Sid talk, because that part of me that could listen like that opened up during those first meetings with him. And so for me, listening is not letting my personal thinking and judgments get in the way of my soul, my heart, being open to what they're saying and who they are. And I guess you could call that a technique if you wanted to. It's a technique I learned a long, long time ago, but it works for life. And it's so powerful if you let your own wisdom and insights come to the surface. Alan, the ego is a distraction from this way of listening. And see, I think that everybody uses this way of listening at various times, and what's really been valuable for me is recognizing it as a real thing and not just a fluky happenstance that occasionally happens when you're peaceful or in a place that you want to be, or with somebody you want to be with, or doing something you want to do. It's a real thing that we can access anytime we want to. And I think the realness of it is what struck me back in 1978. Kind of like, OMG, this is true. I see Richard nodding his head down there. It's like, you're OMG. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to say about listening, and I know that everybody here has uses listening in that way. So I'm hoping that this connects, and this is cool. So this is a picture of me when I'm about 8 years old. Okay, this is Allan Flood at 8 years old. He's looking at the camera, and the look on his face is so powerful, and it strikes me as the way he knew something that I forgot, and it's been so much fun finding that again. So thank you, Allan. Thank you, young Allan. And that's really all I want to say now. I'd love to hear your guys' comments or thoughts.
That was wonderful, Alan. I really appreciated you pointing to that. The innate health is what you pointed to, how everybody has that core of resiliency and well-being, peace of mind, everybody, even if they only tap into it 1 minute out of an entire lifetime. I mean, that's an exaggeration because I don't believe there is somebody on the earth who has only tapped into that innate health 1 minute out of a whole lifetime. But knowing and hearing that it does exist, it can be accessed at any time. And yeah, sometimes I'm in such a thought storm that, yeah, I know it's there, but I'm not accessing it, that's for sure. Maybe in an hour, maybe in 6 hours, I don't know when. But there's a comfort just knowing that it's there for us. You know, that's how I experience it. That, yeah, it's a comfort. Yeah, I'd love to hear from the rest of you, Sharon, Pallavi, Nicola, anybody, Libby, anybody want to, Greg, anybody want to talk about what you're seeing? And then I want to introduce Richard to you too. Yeah, Pallavi.
Hi.
Hey.
What I realized is, I guess I knew before coming across the three principles of SIT that there's a worth in listening and that it's needed to feel connected and to open up and to trust each other. But I still thought that when somebody has a problem or is suffering with something, that at the end of the listening, I should offer some advice. Like I knew something that might help them. And so it was more like the listening is more like a means to an end, to come to the point where I listened enough to to share what I have to say. And now it seems funny because like during this year and listening to Sid and learning, I guess I saw more about the innate wisdom of everyone, and that it's really like when I see something for myself, I can't give it away. I can talk about it and point to it, but I guess I got more appreciation for this, knowing that wisdom really has to come from your own inside. You have to have your own insights, and so I feel like I have more respect for where everybody is and how the world looks to them, and also for the separate realities we're in, and that it's really true that the world looks different to everyone, and my truth isn't some higher truth than anybody else's. And there's one sentence in one of Sid's talks where he says that you have to allow everybody to be God in his own world. And for some reason that really resonated with me, like that they have their highest truth in their world and they have to find it for themselves. And something in this made it easier for me, I guess, to really listen, because I really understand better, at least, why it's so helpful and why it's not just a technique to get somewhere. And I really enjoy this because I feel like I'm more open to listen to people where maybe before I would have judged more quickly or just have been busy with my own judgments about it. And there's really such a beauty and treasure in it of of really listening. So
Oh, that's so great. I'm so glad you shared that because, yeah, I know that happens to me too. Yeah, right. And that's that thinking that gets in the way of just letting a deeper wisdom come forth. Yeah, it was beautifully said. Thanks, Pallavi.
thank you.
Anybody else seeing something, anything you hadn't seen before that you'd like to share? While you're reflecting, I'll say, Richard, you want to introduce yourself? I just recently got to know Richard. Actually, he and his wife were on the same ferry that I was on when I was going out to Salt Spring Island, to the school in Salt Spring. That was in 2016. So Richard's been one of my angels that came out of nowhere. So anyway, what do you want to say, Richard?
Well, I predate Alan actually by about 2 or 3 years. I met Sid in a roundabout way through one of the early books that was writing about his profound experience. And like the books that Sid followed with, and also all of the recordings, it really doesn't matter what source you come into contact with truth, because it's all one truth. Like we exist in that space. That one of the first realizations I had is, and I didn't realize this, is I was searching. And one of the first things I did is I stopped. But I didn't know I was searching. So Sid talked a lot about waking up. And what do those words mean? It's in the universal sense, in the divine sense of waking up. To some degree, you wake up to the cosmic dream. And again, I'm going to put that in quotes because, again, it's just a descriptor that's trying to express or describe the indescribable. And Sid would often talk about this. And maybe I've picked the appropriate background here because there are times when you would listen to Sid share his experience, and the whole thing that's happened from the moment that he had his experience to current day has all come about as a result of him sharing that one experience. It's like dropping a pebble in a pool. The ripple effect is just, it's been rippling since 1973, 74. And we all know, I mean, that's a great, I mean, Lori, you've got it on your website, on the homepage. It's got the drop of water that's splashing into a pool. Spiritually, we are all drops. We ripple out whatever is us. When I say us, I'm talking about it in the very sort of divine, universal sense that we can see ourselves as the me, the little person, the physical body, in this realm of form, but then there's also the greater space called formlessness that Sid talked a lot about. And that was the whole point of listening, was to literally just be present in the moment, in the now. Like living in the now was something that Sid, again, we just drove us home. Like the only thing that exists is that precise experience. And it's not even measurable from a point of view of the length of time, because he talked about his experience being beyond space, time, and matter. That's the world of form. Interesting, he also talked about duality, and you'll see this like The Missing Link is one of his, I would say, very significant works. You can read one sentence, you can read one word, and that's your lesson for the day. I had the privilege actually of helping creatively design the entire book for him and produce it, and then actually be as the gatekeeper, if you want to call it, because that's a term that I use for the work that I do. Is regardless of who I might be in service to, that the work I do, it doesn't go out unless I'm happy with it. And it could be that somebody's already signed off on it, like Sid. But if I'm not happy with it, and I would make sure that I would bring whatever to his attention. So this is an example. We were at the final stages of getting ready to go to print. There was 2 or 3 reviewers that were actually looking at the published, laid out manuscript that I'd created for Sid. And there was one came back, there was not a lot, but there were some suggested edits. And it was really clarification of what was being expressed in words. And we looked at it, my wife and I. What you should know is Sid, Marika and I, same time, same experience, woke up together, thank God. Because We have no idea where we would be today if we hadn't done that. Marika was also Sid's personal secretary from 1980 to 2009. So, and he was also just a very, very dear friend. That was perhaps the singularity that Sid sought most with the other beings that he came into contact with. You could just be a friend. You could be a spiritual being that was walking the same path that, and it was just the ordinariness of that. So anyways, back to the suggested edits. We're going, I don't think this is what Sid intended to share. So we made note of the ones that we kind of found were a little bit, and then we phoned him up and said, what do you think? Because this is our take on it. You're the author. You know what he said? You know, just do what you know is best. Like he didn't offer his solution other than, you know. And that's one of the things, and I can just leave it on that, Lori, is that deep, deep down, regardless of what path in life we follow, we know. You get to that point where you do have to acknowledge that when you do know, you really know nothing as well. So this is this whole thing of duality, like form and formless, although we separate them, they're one and the same. So we just, again, this is just our consciousness that whatever level we're functioning at allows us to understand the metaphor, the word picture that we're trying to convey to another soul. So all of us on this call, there's 9 souls here. Sid talked about separate realities. Realities are based on your conscious level. What's really cool is high levels of consciousness can see the entire spectrum from their level and down, and even sort of get a hint of what even is higher than their level of consciousness. But the low level of consciousness has a difficulty seeing the higher levels because it's just not in their world. So 2 words, separate reality. Again, this is all explained. The mystery is explained in the missing link. And I would encourage you to just pause. This is important. Pause, absorb, reflect.
And how cool is this, that I did not recruit Richard and Alan. I don't know how they wound up in this mystery school phenomenon that's happening, but isn't that amazing? I mean, that's how you can trust how there's a flow of life, you know? And if we could just quiet down enough to allow it to bring us to the next place and the next place, it's quite amazing what shows up. So thank you, both of you, so much. Alan.
Well, I have a point here. So the reason I love the mystery school is because it gives me a chance to listen from that open, non-Alan place. And when I do that, I learn wonderful things, you know. I've every one of these sessions that I've been in, I've had an insight or two, you know, that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So that's why I would so much love to hear you guys, and I'd love to hear your thoughts just about anything, really. Yeah, that's a request I have, if you're willing.
Yeah, me too. I feel the same way, Alan. It'd be great to hear from others. Oh, great, Greg. You have to unmute yourself, Greg.
Okay, is that good? Okay, so I think going back to when you were talking about like that innate wisdom, like that inner wisdom, I know one of the lectures I listened to, I'm not sure which series it was, he talked about how like everyone has mental health within them, like everyone has that kind of inner calmness within them. So when you brought up like listening to that innate wisdom, I sort of kind of made a connection to um, instead of like going and searching for things, it's more of just listening and trying to get in touch with what's naturally inside of you.
Wow. I wish I knew that at that age, you know? Wow. That's so great, Greg. Unmute, Alan.
Oh, I just thought of this, Greg, when you said Gregory or Greg?
Oh, Greg's fine.
Greg's okay.
Yeah.
So I just thought of this. There's a one tape where Sid says the reason that the groups that meet at St. Mary's Lake, one of the reasons there's they're so quiet and successful is because when people talk that have a little piece of this understanding, it's a living soul talking to a living soul and not a person talking to a person. So when you listen to somebody that you love and you're feeling love, that's that soul talking to another soul, and that other person might not hear, but the possibility is there. And yeah, a living soul talking to a living soul, not a person talking to a person. Anyway, it just occurred to me.
Cool, Alan. That's cool. Yeah. And really cool, Greg, what you had to say. Yeah. So that's a big insight. I'm curious, how much time have you spent? Like, when did you first start reading or listening to Sid, Greg? How long ago was that?
Probably like when we first met, like, or for a couple days after that first kind of appointment I had with you. Although like it hasn't really been like regular, like every day, like around like the time around Christmas, I wasn't really, but I would say probably shortly after like we had that kind of first Zoom appointment.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that long ago, right? It was like less than 2 months ago, I think, when I first spoke with you, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably right, like a month ago. Yeah,
1 month ago.
yeah, yeah.
Talk about time, space, and matter. What did Sid say about it doesn't take a lifetime to find wisdom? Some people think that. It's not true. I mean, there's so much wisdom, right? That you're seeing inside yourself. And it's not like you're memorizing Sid's words or, yeah, I love, Sid said, don't take notes. You'll be two sentences behind me. Yeah, it's such a good sense of humor. Yeah, thank you so much for that. That was really
Actually,
powerful.
Lori, I'm going to crib in there on 2 sentences. You're one thought away from being with them.
Yeah,
One
right. Literally. Yeah.
thought. And like the fact that you have one thought just separates you from everything else.
Right. All the noise.
Yeah. Even the quiet, like in the quiet, like if you're one thought away from it. I'll share there's a video with you that Julian produced. It's one thought away. It'll blow your mind.
Oh, yeah.
Just,
Yeah, I'd love to put that on Mystery School. I saw it a while back. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
he talked about a state of thoughtlessness where you're no longer thinking in terms of that awareness of thinking. You're in that steady state of now.
Mm. Yeah. Sharon, anything? Oh, we haven't heard from you in a while. Love to hear how things are going for you.
Very, very well. Just keep getting more insights, and sometimes I get a whole bunch of them, and I have to take a break because they have to absorb. And sometimes I listened to a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and I had to go take a nap, and I don't usually nap during the day. I was so exhausted, and I came into that listening thing. It was really bizarre. It was like my whole body and my mind, and I was like, I burst into tears, like good tears of joy, and then I went to bed. Took a little nap, and that night I slept like a baby. And so yeah. And Alan showing his picture, I laugh because I have an unflattering older Christmas picture of me, but it has my dog that's been gone for a long time. And I'm like, now when I think in the past, instead of being like, oh, regrets and all that, I'm like, oh, little Sharon, she's so innocent. She just didn't know. And I just love myself because that's where I was, that's what brought me to here, to what I know now. And I also see that I had a lot of innate wisdom, but I didn't trust it. I wasn't around supportive people or people that obviously knew about the 3Ps. And so I didn't trust myself for a long time. And now I've learned so much, and I'm like, oh, I kind of knew that, but I didn't apply it. And just amazing things. And I've read, I still can't get through all the books between the webinars and the books, but I've read Missing Link. I think I'm on I don't know, I start and stop all the time, like third or fourth time. And the first time I felt like it was too complicated for me. But now I'm reading it again, and I'm like, oh, and some of it I get, some of it I don't, but I don't worry about what I don't get. I'm like, you get that little glimmer, and I'm like, and what everyone said, I'm not searching anymore, because I just, everyone's kind of stressed out in these days out in the world, and I'm like, I'm grinning and smiling. It's just like, I feel so fabulous. I don't even really have guilt anymore, but this has been the best year of my life. And I just came into this understanding, I think I started listening, not listening, but listening in March. And I was like, what are they talking about? But I hung in there. And then one day I said, I gotta check out this Sid guy. So I started reading, and I have all the books but one, and that's on back order or something. But reading and listening and participating in webinars, and I'm like, best year of my life. And I'm like, I know a lot of stuff's going to happen. I don't know what it is, and I'm just not worried about it. And it's like, whoa, what a place to be after self-imposed suffering most of my life. I have no emptiness. I used to feel empty, and now I'm like, nothing's changed, but I have everything I need. So it's like, thanks to people like you and Lori, you've showed me, just, I've had so many insights from going back and watching the videos. And in fact, the first mystery school, the first time I was on there, I was like, I had just had all these insights like the previous week. And I was like, I literally felt like I was flying. I remember, I haven't seen the video again for a while, but I was like, whoa, I'm on this trip. Yeah, this is fun. So yeah, it's, and you guys, I learned something every single time. I'm like, oh, and then I have to kind of let it settle, because you can't think too hard or it doesn't work. So anyway, yeah, I'm so grateful to be here and be part of this and just be part of life. I can't wait to get up in the morning. That's pretty neat, because I'm like, whoo, what can I do today? Even if it's nothing, I enjoy it. Thank you.
Oh, it's so great. Oh my gosh, you said a few things that I wanted to come back to, and I have no idea. They'll come to me maybe, but you said some really powerful things that really changed your world for you. Yeah. Wow. Who else? We got a little bit more time. You want to say anything about where you emerged from, Nicola?
Yeah, I feel like I've just jumped into this, and obviously you guys maybe have been talking for a lot longer. But it just feels like a journey for me, and you know, listening to you today, it's lovely. It's a reminder to go back to Sid, because I think I've listened to a lot of people and read a lot of books, 3 principles based, but forget to go back to where it came from. And so this has just been a reminder, you know, to do that. So yeah.
So you were listening to students of SIDS on who were 3 principles practitioners. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, just people. Like I realize I have your book. Was it The Power of Love that you wrote, or
The Secret of Love? Yeah, that's funny. Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, I've been reading that and some other books, and yeah, but it's just, I love what you're all saying and talking about, and taking it in. I'm just taking in what you're saying. And yeah.
Yeah. Richard has a suggestion. Thanks so much, Nicola. I just have one more question, which was, lost it. It's one of the things that happens when you're not tracking your thoughts. They come fast. Alan, did you just raise your hand, Alan? You're muted. You're muted. There you go.
That was the motion of a thought leaving my head.
I missed that. Say that again.
A thought leaving my head. That was
Oh,
the
you
motion
weren't
of
raising
a
your
thought
hand.
leaving my head.
No,
I wasn't raising my hand.
There you go. Sorry about that.
If you'd
Yeah,
like
so
to read, Lori, I can read what I'm suggesting.
let me see what you wrote, Richard.
It kind of ties into what we've been talking about.
Of reading the 4 paragraphs on page 3 of the missing link. All right, let's see.
First chapter.
Anybody else have
You wanna
anything
read
they want to say before we? That's an idea, huh? On page, what page? I missed the page, Richard. You
Page-
want to read it?
Yeah, I'll read it.
You may not have it handy.
Yeah.
4 paragraphs on page 3.
Yeah. So this kind of sets the stage.
So
for-
funny, I just read it before we came on. I just read it.
Okay.
And it's in another video. Are we on the same brainwave or what? Yeah. The missing link. One of the greatest misconceptions ever is the belief that it takes years to find wisdom. I read this I'm not making this up. Right before we came on here, I read it in a Zoom call, and it's going to be on Mystery School, the first chapter. So everybody has to go and watch that video. Are we on the same wavelength or what? Isn't that wild? But I will read this next one. I think this is another good way to close. Thank you for the suggestion, Richard. The Theosopher. This is on page 13. This is the next chapter, which I would love to have one of you. You have a grant deadline, Alan. Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you next. Oh, by the way, next time is going to be Monday. It's going to be Monday. and I think at 3 p.m. because that's when a couple of people said that they could make it. So we're gonna, that's okay with
Hey,
everybody here.
thank you all.
Monday at 3.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, you guys.
I think most
Thank you so
people have to
much.
go. I don't think yeah.
It's
Bye,
such a
Alan.
pleasure.
Thank you so much. So great to have you with us. I can't believe how,
Yes.
I got to find out how you found this, how you found us. But
Yeah.
for now,
No.
who knows, right? Who knows?
Well, you know what? You don't find it, it finds you.
Yeah.
Yes. When you're ready.
It
when
found you,
what
Ellen.
did,
Yeah. No, Sid
Richard, what did Sid say when Sid
it's
said
the
when
middle
you're
of the
ready, the
Sahara
teacher?
Desert. You're ready. You're ready.
Yes.
To be in the middle of the Sahara Desert. And I was
Yes.
in the Sahara Desert. I just didn't know it. So like when you're ready, you're ready. I mean, and you may not even know it.
Bye, Ellen. Well, any last words? We're just gonna pick up next Monday. Oh, I have a last word. Let's communicate. You know, like Sharon, you've been great at commenting. Pallavi, you've been great at commenting. Richard's busy. Libby, you want to say something? Unmute. See that little mic? Yeah, you got it.
I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to join the group. I, like Nicola, have not read that much yet, so I will try to do that for the next week.
Yeah,
and
that's
learn
so
more
great.
about what everyone's talking about. So I appreciate
Yeah.
it. So,
I was aware of not calling on you because I didn't want you to, you know, I don't
yeah,
know where
no,
you're at.
I mean,
I don't want.
I'm happy to speak. I just didn't know what to add at this point, but I'll try to read a little bit before the next meeting.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad that
you.
you're with us.
Yeah, thank you.
And whoever else is listening, but we don't know who they're here, that they're here. Yeah. All right, so I'll see you all next Monday at 3 p.m. East Coast time.